Assalamu alaikum. This is Muhammad Ali Zafar. I'm an English instructor. I have been teaching English at various renowned institutions all across Pakistan for the past 7 to 8 years. And currently, we are going to study MCAT. Basically, today's lecture would be an introduction to MCAT, and then we would be discussing that what English chunk is about in MCAT, the syllabus of MCAT, what content does it take, how English is important in MCAT, and how we can incorporate and prepare with the help of this particular English all other entry tests, because in 70 to 80% of the entry tests they have English comprehension for engineering, and a few medical universities also have this particular comprehension passage in their entry tests. So this lecture is going to be of pivotal importance for all those aspirants who have taken the intermediate or O-level exams and are aspiring further to take some entry test. So we'll begin. ECAT basically is designed for QET, and a few other universities have their own test of entrance for engineering, and they have diverse syllabus, but the syllabus of ECAT, whereas English is concerned, is not that much diverse. Firstly, we'll be seeing its content. Primarily, we have physics. These are the science subjects which carry more marks, but the chunk of English is very easy to be done, and it gives you 100% marks, right? There is no way of losing marks if you just simply know the techniques. Then we have maths. Most of the students are able to get maximum marks in these subjects, but unfortunately the students are not able to do justice with English, and eventually they lose marks. So it's very much important to cover this area. It carries 10 marks. This carries 30, 30 and 30. The focus of all the science students normally is upon the science subjects, and every science student is able to cover these subjects maximum. There are various academies, there are various lectures, but unfortunately English gets a very step treatment since the people are not familiar with the techniques and logics with the help of which we can acquire full marks in English. So in order to acquire full marks in English, there are a few techniques. If you follow these techniques, then we can get maximum marks in English. Just like science, this is also mathematical. Trust me, I'll prove with the help of these further lectures that in English, everything is very logical, and we are having a constraint of time, right? So in these minutes, or in the time allocated for English, it's ideal, or my lectures will enable my students to cover this particular portion of English in no more than 15 minutes. They would be sufficient, or less. In 10 to 15 minutes, the students would be able to cover this portion, and the rest of the time could be given to other science subjects then. So in this way, their time would be saved and they would be getting full marks in English. With the help of these lectures, we'll make sure this, because we'll be making sure and clicking every aspect which has been asked and discussed in the syllabus as well as the past papers. So we'll make it very much idiot proof. Now we have the distribution for English. The syllabus of English is about comprehension. The comprehension consists of 10 questions. These questions are basically MCQs sort of thing, because they're having various options. We will be having the passage, where there would be various paragraphs in this passage, and after that we'd be having a few questions. For example, just it would be about the crux of it could be about the crux of the paragraph, and then we'll be having option A, B, C, and D, and one of them would be chosen by you. So in order to do this particular sort of question, we have a few techniques: the elimination technique, choosing the odd one out, and making it click with the help of the passage. We'll be discussing each and every fragment of those, and those particular tips would obviously make you very much the master of your subject. So this was the pattern at which we would be encountering the questions. Now, the question is this particular thing relevant? Yes. This is relevant to everything. This comprehension is a part of the syllabus of various engineering universities and a few medical universities as well. I already told you this. So that is why it has a lot of weightage. Now, comprehension. We have seen that the comprehension questions are for multiple natures and they are of diverse nature. Firstly, the question can be related to the context. The writer always asks or tells something and it's in the context. For example, if there is a sentence, he fell, and we have a reason behind this, that as he was running, or the people were chasing Thomas and he was running, and then he fell. So the writer can simply ask you that why was he running? So you are going to infer the context. The context can be inferred, or the context needs to be inferred and answer the questions, right? So this inference can be based, and this could be context-based inference, and it can also be an inference which is not based on any context. We are not given any context. It is only the words which are going to signify. Sometimes we need to infer without the context. This means that the previous things would not be related to anything which is in the passage. So we are going to just extract that particular material out of the passage. Let's have a look. For example, for this particular purpose, you need to know the etymology, or you need to know the context, what they are. You need to know the art of breaking the words down. It's very simple. It's like maths. For example, I'll teach each and every tactic, and then my students will be able to do everything. For example, because, for, since. These are the three words which are used for reasoning, and they can tell us that something has happened because of it. For example, Thomas fell because of his own mistake, right? So because tells us a definite reason. And then if we see for is telling us a reason which is based on an assumption. For example, that the people are not familiar if Thomas has fallen due to his own mistake or not, but they are just, or the writer is just assuming that Thomas has fallen due to his own mistake. So then this would be inference without context, because we are not familiar with the context. So the word for refers to something which is based on an assumption, such a reason which is based on an assumption. But because tell is such a reason which is based on finality and which is based on surety, while since is the word which is based on such an assumption which is lying in between them. This can be an open reason. This can be a reason which is not that much authentic as was in because. So, if the question appears that was the writer really sure that Thomas has fallen? Can you explain the reason? What was the reason behind this? And for is used over there. So, inference without context, this particular technique or this particular question will be answered in the light of this thing. Now, making the things easier, we have title. The questions can be related to title. It might be either asked you to tell what the title is. Now we'll be making things very easy. This was a bit new thing, but this was very scientific. And all the students of engineering are able to grab scientific things, I presume, being a science student myself. So title, there can be questions which are related to either why the title was given to this, what was the title, or what would you suggest to be the title. So this is very subjective question. Then we have reason. Reason, as in 2016 paper of ECAT, what was the reason behind this? So that we'll discuss that it was a passage of comprehension which has almost 550 or more words, and you are going to read these words in this much time and then answer this particular passage. And yes, we'll be discussing the techniques in our next lecture, and the basic technique which we would be discussing would be to read the questions first and then come to the comprehension, make topic sentences, break down, skim them, scan them. This would be all told to you, every single thing. So the reason might be asked that why has something happened and why has author said so, and the reason would be given in the passage and you are going to take that particular reason. You might be asked the relation or the crux. The crux refers to central idea. It would simply be asking that what was the central idea in that particular passage. So you would be telling that this passage was referring to God, was referring to being an atheist, or was referring to the scientific inventions, or whatever your topic is about. It's simple. And now we have relation. This particular relation it relates to the question of comprehending the relation between two passages. And how has the writer connected the characters, the ideas, or the passages. So you're going to give that particular relation which is existing between both of them. Next up we has reference word. For example, if it's written, it would be a bit grammatical in nature, and the students need to be adept in the usage of pronouns for answering such a question, because it's all about getting back and inferring that what this pronoun was related to. For example, if we take a sentence, Ajmal was talking that he would rise like a phoenix. His feelings were not understood by anyone. So, his is a pronoun, and his can be related to Ajmal or phoenix. So the student is supposed to answer that who is his related to, Ajmal or phoenix, or the writer. So for this particular thing, we'll be working on some grammar tactics, and we'll see how a particular pronoun is exactly related to a noun or subject 1 or the second subject or that object or complement or the author. So we'll be discussing these things. Next up we have simple MCQs or exception cases. So scan the exception. The students will be asked a few things. Three of these things would be given in the passage. There would be a question that which of these things is an exception to the writer's thought, and 3 of the thoughts would be correct, and you would be able to choose the wrong thought or such a thing which the author has not talked about. You're simply going to tick that thing which is not mentioned in the passage. So this is just to check that if you have read the passages. Next up we have the simple choice. It relates to choosing the simple answer, and it would be quite simple in nature. For example, who was Jimmy in the particular story or in the passage? Or who was Jimmy simply? Was he the villain? Was he the hero? Was he an antagonist or a protagonist or whatever? There can be multiple questions. Who was the father and what was the name? This is very much simple, like a 2nd grader can also do such sort of questions. So there is very easy pattern for these things, but we would work on this particular thing so that we can have our work done in future. Next up we have scan and skim. Some people also say it's scanning and skimming, so we can change the words, but it means the same. They are related to diagnosing the text and going through the gist of the text, that what is written in the text. For example, this is a whole passage, and you do not have, obviously in 15 minutes you will not be able to read each and everything out or remember this by heart. You need to do the things in time. For this particular purpose, we'll be discussing the scanning and skimming techniques, and these techniques would tell you that how can we infer more information from the caps, from the numerics. I would be discussing the cap numeric scanning in my lecture, so the students can easily have that particular thing out. And one of the last things is the meaning in the context of writer. The writer has his own way of doing the things. The writer certainly has some particular meaning or semantics hidden in his own jargon. That is why he's the writer. He's in the driver's seat. Whatever the writer thinks about the topic, the students are going to take that thing. For example, there can be an article about media or some passages about media, and then the students will be asked that was writer in favor of media. There can be the next option, no, yes, he was in the favor in the beginning but not now, not anymore. So these can be the options, or simply you can ask what was writer's remarks about media, and you would be able to choose that. So the meaning in the writer's context, or what was writer's understanding, or what does the writer think of media. So you must be able to infer from the writer's context. He might have said that that particular journalist says media is bad, he says media is bad, the world says media is bad, but it is not that bad. So if such a language is used, or if such an expression is used by the writer, so it means that writer is not taking media as a negative entity. So in this way, you should be able to answer these. Next up, we have implication. Implication is another term which is similar to meaning, but it's different in the context of ECAT. Implication means that what does that particular passage implies. Every passage or every paragraph has its own tone. So you need to understand the tone of that paragraph. Whenever you go through the paragraph, write its tone in front of it, or its type, or give it a marker, give it a hint that if it's describing the qualities of media, or if it's telling us about the disadvantages of fostering media or making it too much active. So these can be the things which are the implications. And the predictions would also be followed into this particular chart. The students must be able to understand that why has the writer predicted this thing? It should be followed by logic. Again, it's very much logical like maths. So this logic should be followed, and it should be made a part of that particular question. And why has it happened? How has it happened? These can be the questions which the writer asks. And for answering such questions, we must be able to know this particular rule, which we would be having a detailed discussion and daily drilling upon these things. Apart from that particular thing, our lectures would be having the etymological dissection of the words. If it sounds difficult, do not worry. I have an easy alternative for this. It simply means to break down the words to make them sound easier, or so that we can understand them. For example, we can take the word morphine. So it contains of two various entities, and one entity is related about sound. So if we know the meaning of this particular word, so we might be able to guess the meaning of the remaining word. It basically means to be able to know that what the word is about. So upon daily basis, we'll be discussing that how can we dissect the word, since English consists of various morphemes, and it consists of various words which add up. Sometimes in the beginning they are called the prefixes, and sometimes we have them at the ending known as the suffixes. So how can noun be converted? And we will be discussing these things so that our comprehension passage becomes easy. You need not to worry about everything. We would be only discussing these things, and through discussions and through these lectures, the student shall definitely be able to learn and to be able to crack maximum marks, and which is our target in MCAT, to attain these marks. And yes, our target is also this particular bracket, to be able to do this work into 10 minutes. So these lectures will be focusing on time efficiency as well as scoring with accuracy. Apart from this, obviously your English will be benefited a lot. Spoken, written, and all sort of skills, the comprehension skills. And then again we have this particular portion of comprehension. This is a part of the English in CSS, right? So whole paper of CSS can also be prepared with the help of these things. Thank you so much. This is Muhammad Ali Zafar signing off.